Let me just talk about this for a second. You might not have to do this, but if you wanted to measure your fan, the resistance across the coils, we have a chart built into the mini manual, into the app. The fan motor is 2 ohms, give or take about 10% resistance. And the compressor, if you want to check your compressor before you replace it, right, or before you replace the heat pump system, you want to test the compressor, make sure that it's not, that it's not shorted or something. The resistance across the windings, it's going to be about 1.3 ohms, give or take 7% tolerance. So this is a nice set of information to determine if perhaps the machine is not drying as a result of maybe a bad inverter board. So we've had service calls on this, all right, just like any other product, right? This product has been launched, and the inverter board is one of the things we've seen that, God bless you, Katie, one of the things that has failed. Now, how do you troubleshoot an inverter board? Okay, it seems hairy, it seems complex, but let me just tell you really simple way, at least the way I would do it. If you have a better method that works for you, go for it, but this is just kind of how I
treat it like a microwave inverter?
No, not exactly. All right, so the inverter PCB takes in 120 volts AC, right? So you have an input, so it takes 120 in. It outputs to the compressor and to the fan a DC pulsated voltage, which you never have to measure. So here's what I would do. If you suspect that you have a bad inverter because the compressor or the fan are not running, check your input first. Make sure you got 120 coming in, because without 120, nothing's gonna work. Then check the resistance on both components. If the resistance checks out and you got 120 coming in, more than likely inverter PCB. Obviously, if you have a shorted coil on a fan or a compressor, it's not an inverter. It's probably a component, and you have to replace. I mean, if it's the compressor, you have to replace the entire heat pump system, heat pump assembly, right? If it's a fan, you can just replace the fan assembly. Does that make sense as far as how to troubleshoot the inverter? It's not too difficult. What if you don't have 120 volts AC coming in? What do you do then? Right? That's the main control board, right? So the main control board is the one that sends 120 volts to the inverter PCB.
Awesome.
All right. That being said, let's talk about where the other 2 thermistors are. So the user interface board houses NTC number 4 and NTC number 5. So remember I said there was 5 NTCs total. But this NTC number 4 is also a combination sensor. It's a combination temperature and humidity sensor. So it's one piece. You don't have to go crazy trying to replace two parts. And again, there will be charts associated with the values in terms of like voltage versus resistance, but with the SmartHQ Service app, the value will be given to you in regular standard Fahrenheit or in humidity, if it's the humidity sensor you're trying to check. So you never have to take out your meter to compare. You can if you want to, just like for sanity purposes, you do a double check, but in general, it's very accurate. All right, any questions about where the sensors are located? So far, so good? Okay. So now let's talk about how SmartHQ Service makes it super simple to diagnosis.
Quick question before you move on.
Oh, yes, sir.
So is the app available for non-factory servicer or?
Yes, as long as you're appliance repair professional, which you are because you're here, you can get the application.
But we can't call Techline for that.
There is a separate service that you can get access to tag the call,
Okay.
which you can. But I'm not saying this to say the tag is not good, because tag is great. I met all those gentlemen that answered the phone. They're extremely knowledgeable, but they're overwhelmed. If you ever call them, especially during the summertime, you might be on hold for 10, 15, 20 minutes, some maybe even more, right?
45.
So yeah, I mean, they're trying to answer as quickly as they can, but of course, then we get the technicians that call and say, hey, the fridge is not cooling, what do I do? It's like, did you check anything? You didn't check anything, are you just? So we get that, and of course we have to guide them through. So if you have the app, a lot of the questions that you might have, like what does this fault code mean? Or how do I get into this test mode? Or what's a disassembly procedure? A lot of our users you know, they report to us that they have cut back on the number of calls they have to make to tag. It just makes it a little bit easier, right? A little bit easier. Nevertheless, don't stop calling tag. They're a wealth of knowledge.